This might be the only grinder you need on your home coffee bar. Just landed from Baratza officially. This is the Encore ESP Pro. I actually got to unbox a pre-released version of this grinder and use it for a month, but this is going to be our official crew review. My first impression on the Encore ESP Pro is that the look of this grinder really stood out to me. It definitely has the Encore look, but elevated in a way that just feels really premium. The feel of the grinder is really great too, from adjusting the grind and interacting with the dial. It's built out of high quality materials, such as the anodized cast zinc body, a metal adjustment assembly. And yes, it even has barista lights, so you can see all of your grounds coming into the bin or our little dosing cup. And now let's talk about the features. This is Baratza's first fully stepless grinder. The adjustment assembly rotates 270 degrees as opposed to 180 on the other Baratza grinders. That means you get 60 increments of adjustment on this grinder as opposed to the 40 steps you have on the other grinders in this lineup. Something to note is that the numbers on our display aren't actual settings, but they are more a reference point indicating the distance between the burrs. Within those 60 steps, there's a ramped adjustment. Steps 1 through 40 have a very slow, gradual increase in size, making it specialized for espresso. From 40 to 60, the ramping speeds up so you get that flexibility to go through all the rest of our brew methods. For folks that want to get really technical with this, in the espresso range of this grinder, for every half increment on the display, you are increasing or decreasing 5 microns of grind size. In steps 40 to 60, where we're going to be working in filter coffee, the ramp is steeper because precision isn't as critical for filter coffee as espresso. So for filter coffee, it's going to be moving 50 microns per half increment. All of this makes the ESP Pro an amazing all-purpose grinder. The burrs featured in this grinder are Baratza's 40mm M2 conical steel burrs. One feature that I really love in this grinder is there is an integrated flow control disc that slows the speed of the feeding of the beans into the burrs. This reduces the popcorning effect of where the beans get kicked back off of burrs, which ultimately increases consistency of grind. There are 2 different workflow modes on this grinder. There's a grind by time or the classic single dose mode. If you opt for the grind by time route, it's programmable up to the 10th of a second. I'm really excited to see the single dosing features on this grinder, as that's how I've preferred to use Encores in the past, but this one is really optimized for it. Number 1, it comes with the single dose hopper already. Number 2, it has an auto off feature, so I can start my grinding, move through the rest of my process, whether I'm grabbing milk for like a latte or something, and the grinder is going to stop itself rather than having to have me stand by it and sort of babysit it through the process. I mentioned this in my last video, and while the grinder features some anti-static technology, I really encourage leveraging something like RDT to reduce the static, particularly if you were doing back-to-back shots. With the anticipation of this release, people have been asking what's really going to be super different about this grinder. The updated internals have made it much quieter. This is quieter than past Encores due to the drive gear and the grind path. There are a lot of awesome, super technical features that come with this grinder, but let's break it down into simple pros and cons. Let's start off with the pros. This grinder features stepless grind adjustment, which gives you infinite control when dialing in your espresso. As I mentioned, you have the option between the timer or the single dose mode. It has the full brew range from espresso all the way out to cold brew. Very low retention, a clear digital display, super durable burrs and build quality, and you don't need any tools for the burr removal, which makes it really easy to maintain. Now, let's talk about the cons of this grinder. Because you have options now, the different modes can be a little confusing at first. I definitely recommend reading the manual so you understand how they work together and what's going to work best for you. Even though the display is numbered, this grinder is stepless, so there's nuance within each increment. And I've noticed that the static on this grinder can be a little bit higher than on other grinders that have full metal frames. If you are using the timer function and you change the grind size, you will likely need to reconfigure your timed dose as well. And major grind sizes, particularly those from espresso out to a filter coffee method or back from filter coffee to espresso, can jam the grinder if there are beans inside, so it's best to make those major changes when the grinder is empty. Now, I'd like to talk about my brewing experience with this grinder. I've gotten to test it out making cold brew, pour over V60, French press, and of course espresso. I've been really impressed with the filter coffee on this grinder, particularly on the V60. It drank a lot cleaner in its taste profile than I typically expect from conical burrs. The espresso shots are consistent and easy to dial in. Getting to unbox this grinder and use it as a brand new grinder, I personally found that my first dial-ins were in the top upper section of the espresso range and sort of adjusted from there from coffee to coffee. From my personal experience with the Encore espresso grinders, the ESP and the ESP Pro, they have awesome espresso ranges, but they do go incredibly fine for their ground coffee, and that's often too fine for a lot of espresso. So I like to start in the last quadrant of their espresso range and work my way down. I typically can dial in a little bit faster that way and hit my targets. Another thing I really appreciate about this grinder is that it actually switches between brew methods really well, particularly when you're leveraging the single dose setup. The main reason for that is when you single dose, you're purging out the grinder with every use, so there's no beans in the hopper or, importantly, in the grind mechanism to get in the way of those big changes. In comparison to the rest of the Encore lineup, this one is the best of the family. And that's because it's an all-around really solid grinder for filter coffee. From French press, coffee pots, to pour over, the Encore is really solid. Moving into the Encore ESP, they add upgraded M2 burrs and a micro-stepped espresso range, making it a really viable entry-level espresso grinder. And then we get to the Encore ESP Pro, which adds refined workflow control and precision, all while maintaining the Encore's approachable look and feel. And if you're interested in seeing brewing an espresso shot with this grinder, I recently did a video on that, so be sure to check that out. When it comes to cleaning this grinder, Baratza recommends regular light cleaning with a deep clean every few months, depending on your use. I mentioned earlier that it does really well switching between brew methods, but when you do that, if there's coffee in the hopper, I recommend purging out about 3 to 5 seconds of coffee to ensure a consistent flavor. The chute and burr chamber are really easy to access, and this should be done at least semi-regularly, so that way you prevent any buildup or backup inside the grinder. My final thoughts on this grinder is that it truly is a jack of all trades, but it is optimized for espresso. I would recommend this grinder for both beginners and experienced home baristas. For beginners, it gives you a lot of room to grow and find exactly what you enjoy about the coffee making process. And for experienced baristas, the workflow optimization and subtle control are really satisfying in the brewing experience. By the way, you should sign up for our email newsletter so you know when new products like this hit our store. Ultimately, I think the barista lights are just really fun. You kind of get to see all the coffee come out and isn't that necessary, but it's just charming in the morning. You get to just, I don't know, it's that extra bit of theater. I love it on the espresso machines as well. So you're just getting to see everything happen, and it's really